Uh, yeah, we have to start because now it's the 3 o'clock Brussels time, and we have to start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from where you are joining us. A warm welcome to all our valued participants and our distinguished speakers. Thanks a lot for all your great interest and great participation in the first day of this conference. We really appreciate your interest on such kind of initiatives, and we look forward to continue and to look forward to your support. I encourage also all of you to do so by sending your comment, your input to the box, to the chat box, because as we mentioned yesterday, we are not allowing participants to take the floor. Today we will have 3 important and interesting sessions dealing with 3 main important topics in the HR in time of crisis, starting with the upskilling and staff upskilling and reskilling in time of crisis, which is really important to make sure that our workforce is ready to manage and to be acting positively in the time of crisis. We will have also another session dealing with the HR digital transformation and finishing with a new concept and a new culture in HR, which is the employee value proposal. As we will have this 3 important sessions, I kindly ask our speakers to deliver their presentation in the allocated time to make sure that we will cover all these 3 topics in the dedicated time. We will finish by having a closing remark by our capacity building directors, Mr. Tayel Kang, who will share with us his speech, and he will focus more on the key recommendations and takeaways from this conference. I would like to inform you that all the PPTs will be available in the conference website, and you can have access to all of that. Also, I am very pleased to inform you that we are working very hard and we are doing our best to make sure that we can record and to record this conference and to make it available to all our members and our partner, and it will be also stored in the conference website. Finally, I encourage you to actively participate in this second day by sending or posting your comment, your question in the chat box. I wish you a successful day. Thank you. I will now give the floor to my dear colleague, Julie Brooke. Julie, floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to session 4. This session, we're going to be speaking about building capabilities through people, upskilling and reskilling. We have 3 distinguished speakers. I will introduce them to you. We will be having Ms. Tamara Archer, who is the Senior Director of Human Resource Management and Development with the Customs Administration of Jamaica, Ms. Gabriela Barriga-Lesmes, who is the Director of Corporate Affairs with the Colombian Tax and Customs Administration. And finally, Mrs. Camille Huxell, who is the Regional Sales Director for Intermetrics Latino America. All of their biographies can be found on the website. And I do encourage everybody, please, to use the chat. And without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Ms. Tamara Archer.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. All right, so this morning, my duty is to speak on building capacities or capabilities through people upskilling and reskilling. Just let me know if you're seeing my slide, Julie.
Yes, everything looks
Yes,
great.
beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, so I have 10 minutes, so let me just jump right into it and start with a definition of upskilling and reskilling. Upskilling, of course, deals with teaching staff members the skills they need to perform the same jobs that they are currently doing, while reskilling looks at giving them the skill sets and tools required to do a different job. Now, at the Jamaica Customs, most of our efforts are focused on upskilling. However, we do offer the environment in terms of study leave, day release for our team members to pursue other studies that will have them reskill to take on different jobs. And all of this opportunity that they receive, they are paid 2 years maximum while studying. Now, why upskill and reskill? Currently, there are about 4 to 5 generations in the workspace. We have the boomers, the Generation X, the millennials, people who are at different spectrums within their work tenure. And they come with different skill sets and they operate differently. We look at the people who are at the mature age, who we think are possessing the institutional knowledge, while our millennials are the persons who are using the technology and the digital age to provide services more efficiently. What we want to make sure is that everybody is at the same platform. So those who are more mature in terms of experience will have an opportunity to teach the younger ones, get them more experience, while the younger ones could also teach them how to use technology to better provide services. And of course, we recognize that because of the growth in the digital era, the use of technologies such as AI, we have to pay close attention to upskilling. We want to also ensure that our team members are multi-skilled. The pandemic showed us just the other day that when somebody's out, business continuity, as I have here, must continue. And therefore, we have to have persons who are multi-skilled, multi-talented within the organization to deliver the services nonetheless. And of course, for us to ensure that everybody understands the business of what we do, not just the job that they're doing, but how what they do impacts the bottom line. So at the Jamaica Customs Agency, we're very deliberate about ensuring how we go about upskilling and reskilling our staff members. We want to ensure that the strategic plan and the corporate plan speaks to how we're going to go about doing this. And we start usually by doing an environmental scan, looking to see what skill sets will be required based on our strategic plan for the next 5 years. What else is happening in the customs globally that we may need to adapt to so that we remain relevant. And those skill sets are taught to our customers or staff members, within our program. Once we identify the gaps, we do an assessment and an analysis, and we begin to prioritize what programs will we offer in year 1, what will we offer in year 2, at what levels will we offer it in year 1, and we start our journey to developing an implementation plan. And for this plan, we are very deliberate again about whether we deliver in a synchronous environment. Again, the pandemic taught us that we had to pivot quickly. We would have had a plan where most of it would have been blended or face-to-face. But with the pandemic coming, we recognized that we quickly had to shift to asynchronous and synchronous environment where people were engaged in self-paced learning or webinars, as we're doing now, to quickly get the skills needed to carry on the work and the functions of the agency. And of course, no strategy that we can ever implement for upskilling our team members can be effective without us having a measurement and a monitoring plan. to look at feedback initially when the course is finished, and also how it is impacting the bottom line down the road. So this is a strategy that we use. But I'm going to share with you now a few things that we do here at Jamaica Customs. We are big on onboarding and orientation because we believe that once our new staff members hit the soils of Jamaica Customs, they should begin their learning journey to understand more about the job that they're going to be doing. And we usually have this learning starting from day one right through to 6 months, because this is a period of probation before they are considered a permanent employee of the agency. So at the very agency level, we teach them about the business of the agency, but when they get to their units and their branches, their heads of department are responsible for teaching them the rudiments of the work there. And of course, they are assessed at the end of 6 months, and that information feeds into their permanent employment in the agency. Our learning and development program is very critical. Every staff member has access to this. We recognize and we consider ourselves a learning organization. And we set ourselves targets each year, as I mentioned, aligned to the strategic plan. Last year, our target was a minimum of 600 staff receiving 5 hours training. And this training is not necessarily about the job that they do, but about the wider custom, so that the business acumen and that muscle can be worked so that they can understand fully how they contribute to the bottom line of the agency. Sufficing to say that we would have exceeded that target last year. We would have used several platforms to get the learning material out to our team members. And currently, we are developing a curriculum that will see our staff members learning the skills that are required based on the assessment and the environment scan that we would have done at different levels throughout their employment cycle here. Before I move on to job rotation, I want to point out to you HR empowerment that we have here. It's a program that we developed here specifically for our supervisors and managers to give them the skills that they need to manage the emotions, the people and the process concerning the work that they do. We recognize that there was a little skills gap there. And what we have done is to develop a program offered each quarter to that specific cohort of staff members to help them manage their teams better. Job rotation is another very structured program that we have here at the Jamaica Customs Agency. What it does, every staff who has served in a particular function for 2 years minimum is rotated into a different area to learn for at least another 2 years before we rotate them again. Our intent is to ensure that by the time you get to, for example, a 5-year tenure within Jamaica Customs, you would have learned significantly about every single process that exists, and not just learn it theoretically, but you're able to apply it on the job. And as I said, our efforts are mainly about upskilling here at Jamaica Customs. Another novel program that we developed is the Performance Improvement Program. And this program targets our staff members who, having done a year of work, we recognize that they have not met the basic satisfactory requirement. And so we sit with them one-on-one and we develop a personalized program for them to ensure that they can operate at maximum within a year's time. Social learning is something we engage in as well. We have our brunch and learn, and just by the name of that program, you recognize that we're supposed to be eating while we are learning, and we're learning, of course, about, rich stuff here. AEO programs, the risk management program, whatever new developments may come up in the customs environment, all of these are presented within these sessions, and not to minimize the other interactions we have when a new thought process is introduced. For example, employee value proposition, we gather and we sit and we talk about how it can be applicable to our administration here in Jamaica. I want to also mention our line officers program, which fits nicely under the learning and development scope, which takes every staff member through all the critical processes of becoming a customs officer, risk management, profiling passengers, all of it, just to make sure that when they are doing their jobs, they understand the link between what they do and what the end product of the business is. We are currently pursuing actively setting up a functional succession plan because we recognize how critical that is to the upskilling of our team members. And I will say more on that if I get an opportunity next time. But these three skills we have over here, analytical, resilient, and tech savvy, while we teach people the core skill, we don't want them to lose these skill sets. We ensure that these are embedded, they're analytical. The COVID has taught us that we need to be resilient, and we would have set up a number of programs as well to ensure that this skill set is embedded in our team members. So how do human resource experience managers support continuous learning? Well, I can tell you what we do here at Customs. Jamaica Customs, we ensure that our rewards and recognition program is tightly knitted to upskilling. You learn a skill, you perform on the job, we recognize and reward you. Also, we provide opportunities for our staff members to carry out duties in higher capacities, and we pay them while they do that, and also offer them the opportunity to transfer their knowledge. How does Jamaica Customs benefit? It improves employee retention, it boosts morale and productivity, it attracts new talent. I tell you, Jamaica Customs is a place that everybody wants to work, and it improves our employee value proposition, our organizational reputation, and also how people view us in the public space. Having done all of that, where we are heading is to foster a digital culture, create a strong employee value proposition, and we are definitely moving towards transformation. Learning is dynamic. We can't stay at one stage. We have to acknowledge what is happening in the global environment. And with that in mind, we continue to evolve and grow and change where it's needed. I think my 10 minutes have expired, and I want to thank you so much for listening to me, and I will await your questions afterwards.
Thank you, Tamara. That was excellent. I want to tell everyone that we will be coming back at the end of the session, and I do have a question in the chat, so we'll be looking at that. But I would like to move on. I'll just remind you, Tamara, if you can just stop sharing your present. Excellent, thank you so much. And we will move to our next speaker, Ms. Gabriela Barriga-Lesmes, who is from the Corporate Affairs, Colombian Tax and Customs Administration. And Gabriela, I will turn the floor over to you. And just unmute yourself when you're ready to go.
Un abrazo muy especial para todos hoy. Un saludo a todos desde Colombia. Quiero hoy hablarles en estos 10 minutos que me han regalado muy amablemente cómo en Colombia desde las aduanas y desde impuestos, porque en Colombia en la DIAN atendemos las dos líneas, la línea tributaria y la línea aduanera. Y cómo hemos podido, a pesar de la adversidad, seguir adelante sin rendirnos. Por eso hemos llamado a nuestra presentación que sin importar la adversidad en la DIAN no nos rendimos. Y voy a darles un poquito de contexto primero. Resulta que en Colombia, en la DIAN, somos 10.889 funcionarios a nivel nacional, 53 departamentos. Y básicamente esto nos ha puesto en un reto enorme frente a la atención del COVID y el trabajo desde casa. ¿Por qué? Porque antes de esto, realmente el 100% de nuestros funcionarios trabajaban presencialmente. Y Colombia, ustedes lo saben, tiene conexión a 2 mares y muchos puertos importantes que atender. Así que las aduanas hacen una labor incansable y no han parado un solo minuto en toda esta pandemia. ¿Qué ha sido el principal reto frente a las competencias que tenemos que desarrollar con los funcionarios a pesar de la virtualidad? Y en este orden de ideas hemos podido atender 3 frentes fundamentales. Uno, el trabajo en casa. El otro, el bienestar de nuestros funcionarios, de nuestros trabajadores y trabajadoras desde casa. Y luego una gran pregunta y es, ¿cómo? Si seguimos vinculando personas, hemos vinculado muchas personas y muchos jóvenes a la DIAN en el año 2019 y 2020, ¿cómo hacer para poder llevar a estos jóvenes, a estos nuevos funcionarios, a las competencias que requerimos en la entidad para poder continuar trabajando, si ni siquiera a veces van a tener la oportunidad o han tenido la oportunidad de compartir personalmente con sus compañeros y aprender de quienes tienen experiencia? Así que esto ha sido un reto enorme para la DIAN en Colombia. Entonces voy a ir tomando cada uno de estos aspectos para contarles un poco qué hemos hecho durante este año de pandemia. Lo primero, frente al trabajo en casa, es empezar a gestionar con todos nuestros funcionarios la conciencia del autocuidado. Fíjense que pareciera algo como básico, pero en la DIAN tenemos muchos funcionarios que son realmente mayores. En Colombia, por la estructura legal, los funcionarios en la entidad perduran mucho tiempo. Tenemos muchos funcionarios que tienen hasta 40 años trabajando en la entidad. Por ende, imagínense ustedes la edad de estos trabajadores, de estos funcionarios en riesgo de contagio. Así que en esto hicimos hincapié muy fuerte en relación con que cada una de estas personas pudiera trabajar desde casa. Y el reto no fue menor en términos de digitalización y modernización, pues tuvimos que llevar la DIAN a la casa de estos 10.889 funcionarios. Y lo logramos con el acompañamiento, con el trabajo en equipo y con la decisión de todos de poder ayudar y dar mucho de nuestro esfuerzo para poder conseguirlo. Importante aquí resaltar los jóvenes, cómo los jóvenes han aportado de manera impresionante a lo que han venido siendo el tema de digitalización. Luego empezamos a trabajar mucho el tema de honestidad, ecuanimidad y equilibrio, porque era necesario que tomáramos conciencia que a pesar de estar en casa, lo importante era cumplir con nuestras funciones, seguir trabajando, cumpliendo nuestras metas, pero sin perder de vista el trabajo equilibrado, el descanso, las pausas activas. Luego, tal vez ustedes han podido ver en sus países, como en Colombia, las dificultades que se empiezan a presentar por no tener el contacto social, por no tener el contacto con el compañero. Así que tuvimos que empezar a mediar, a tener como personas que se dedicaban a buscar conciliar las diferencias preparar a nuestros jefes para que también entendieran y comprendieran y tuvieran empatía con nuestros funcionarios respecto de la situación que cada uno de ellos vivía, porque no nos estábamos enfrentando solamente a funcionarios trabajando en casa, sino también a funcionarios que en casa estaban afrontando situaciones difíciles y complejas que atendían o afectaban su emocionalidad. Así que claramente tuvimos que atender estas situaciones con los jefes, prepararlos, enseñarles, darles nuevas competencias que permitieran poder comprender la situación que cada uno de ellos empezaba a vivir. Y otro reto fundamental fue la toma de decisiones bajo información objetiva. A veces no tener el equipo de trabajo ahí, al frente, al lado, trabajando, sino desde casa, en la virtualidad, dificultaba mucho la toma de decisiones. Así que tuvimos también que poder formarlos en términos de cómo tener acceso a información que fuera objetiva y veraz para la toma de las decisiones. Muchos de nuestros funcionarios, ustedes lo van a ver acá, a pesar de la pandemia, han tenido que seguir trabajando en la presencialidad. Es decir, que en la DIAN el 32% de los funcionarios no ha parado un minuto de ir presencialmente a los puertos, a los aeropuertos, en las zonas de frontera. Y esto ha sido un reto también en términos de cuidar su salud, de poner todas las condiciones humanas disponibles para poderlos proteger. En casa está trabajando el 34% de los trabajadores y en trabajo mixto o alternancia el otro 34%. Así que digamos que esta es como la forma en que hemos podido distribuir estos 10.889 funcionarios dependiendo de la naturaleza de sus funciones y la necesidad del servicio para la entidad. En términos del bienestar que tenemos para los trabajadores, el reto fue llevarlo a las casas, llevarlo al lugar donde estaban ahora. Era relativamente fácil poder reunirlos en un lugar, darles una capacitación, era antes relativamente fácil poder llegar con ese bienestar a las familias. Acá tuvimos el reto de llegar a cada una de las casas y la virtualidad nos permitió de alguna manera, a través de nuestras cajas de compensación, poder llegar a esa familia buscando ¿qué? Equilibrar, dar liviandad un poco, dar esperanza, fortalecer la unión familiar, pero también muchos de nuestros
Family ties. Many of our workers, however, live on their own, away from their families. So this also meant a huge challenge to be able to reach those families through different social programs and social funds. Things as sport at home or awareness webinars were crucial. Here you can see some of those programs. These programs have been carried out so that our staff on their own or together with their family could keep a healthy mind and body to ensure that they didn't lack the drive to carry out their tasks. And last but not least, we needed to keep learning. In DIAN, we will challenge a lot of our staff to truly unfold all of their skills, and we ask them to keep learning. We have always given them different alternatives to learn, to develop new skills, so that they can face the challenges that loom ahead. We have dealt with the different aspects pertaining to customs issues. To me, it is truly a pride to say that we have trained more than 3,000 staffers as ethical advisors during the pandemic. These programs imply strengthening acquired skills. It's not only a technical skill set, also a behavioral skill set, and seeing how one interlinks with the other. The idea is to have peace of mind, a strong and healthy spirit in the face of adversity. I don't have much more time, and I want to stick to the time that they have been given me. But I want to thank the interpreter, says Gabriela Brigal-Desmus. We thank her for her kind words. Thank you for your attention, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. That was excellent. We have some wonderful questions in the chat, and our previous presenter, Tamara, is answering some of your questions. I'll be reviewing some of those after our last presenter. Gabriela, thank you very much for your presentation. And we'll move on to Mrs. Camille Ruxel with Intermetrics Latinoamérica.
Listo. Muy buenos días a todos. Espero que estén muy bien.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I hope you have a wonderful day. My name is Camille Ruxel. I am Regional Sales Director for Intermetrics Latin America. I would like to thank the WCO for this invitation. It is a true honor, and I am very happy to be here. It's the second time I'm taking part in this kind of webinar. I'm going to talk about upskilling and reskilling. My point of view is going to be centered around soft skills, which is one of the metrics we use for our clients. We try to measure soft skills for our clients. Training and learning is something that needs to be done throughout all our life. It is a lifelong process. And in Intermetrics, we work on this. We have companies that are investing in their lifelong training for their workers. We live in a world that is directed by new technologies, facing many changes. And these concepts, lifelong learning, upskilling, reskilling. I will talk about digital literacy, soft skills development. This is a true challenge in our time, and also how to implement an upskilling and reskilling plan. I would like to share some numbers, some figures with you to better understand the concept. We consider that due to artificial intelligence, 5 million jobs are going to disappear. But we think, or it is expected, that 133 million jobs are going to be created due to that technological advancement. This is where human abilities are going to be very valuable if we compare it to robotics and AI. We consider that 75 million jobs are going to change before 2022, that is next year, in more than 20 world economies. We are going to see an increase of automation. And we consider that 47% of jobs are going to be automated in the next decade. 56% of companies will see a loss of competitivity linked to a deficit in competencies or skills. Carl Benedict Frey says that we are in a similar historic time. Many jobs are being substituted through technology. We can expect big disparities and an increase of social conflict. We are starting an era of cognitive capitalism linked to technology. We can harness the power of technology, but it is not necessarily just, it is quite unjust. As a matter of fact, in this context, what we can see is that there's going to be people that are going to be more capable of working with this technology, and we have other people who might not be as capable of mastering this technology. This is the reality. It's not maybe very politically correct to say. We are going to see a big gap. Yuval Noah Harari in Homo Deus, he speaks of the difference between gods and those who are not so able. They are the people who are living a different world because they are not as able. This is a picture of the city I grew up in France, in Normandy, and it represents the yellow vests. This is a social movement that came from working class or middle class people that have more technical or smaller knowledge, and they maybe are not as able to adapt to change. And we can see these factors that are going to impulse this policy of upskilling and reskilling. Well, a skill gap. We also see a risk on the sustainability of basic skills. And those needs related to new technologies and the new needs of clients in the organization. We need to focus on these skills, those strategies, because this is a future investment. This is a global responsibility. This gap between companies and its workers is going to grow. This disparity is going to be even bigger in Latin America. According to the World Economic Forum, our region has the highest skill gap in the world. And this will have an even worse impact on our economies. These companies are going to have vacancies, they're going to have jobs to be covered, but they're not going to have a workforce to cover them. This is why we need to strengthen lifelong learning through upskilling and reskilling strategies. Tamara Archer was already explaining what exactly it means. Upskilling for me would be really to improve, specialize, get new skills to our workers, working on their basic competencies. It would be getting better competencies. Well, I am going to learn digital marketing if I am in a sales post, for example, or I'm going to help with clients, for example. We are going to help in getting better and reskilling. Well, this is, we talk about recycling in Spanish. We mean, well, give new capacities to adapt to new posts in the company. Well, here we need to talk about skills, transversal skills, soft skills. It's a reinvestment in those person's soft skills. If this company has a very talented workforce, but the area where they are working on is going obsolete, we need to include a new talent, for example. It will be better to train these people so that that talent can be used elsewhere. In this context, we need to create this company culture and have this lifelong learning for their workers. This has very big pros. We can go before the risks of competency or skill obsolescence. We can innovate and develop our competitivity in the organization. We can also create a culture for talent mobility and guarantee that our workers can be employed. We also need to have them take part in this continuous training. We need to improve the cooperation between teams and also reduce the selection processes. But here, well, capacity building is better when hiring gets harder, when recruiting gets harder, and also when companies want to keep that person employed and also work on that company culture, to have that employee branding, and to also keep the talent and also get new talent. We also have a very big need to give this information for talent retention and also for soft skills, for digital literacy, for example. These hard skills include, for example, knowledge on a specific issue that is important for a specific job. They can be sometimes more technical, hard skills. And these will be hard for those to be trained or implemented in a podcast or in a work situation. And they're easier to evaluate through a certificate or a university degree. It's important to harness that technology to be able to upskill and also recycle in a way our skills. The idea is to learn to learn. This rule of the 5 hours was by Michael Simons, who was also inspired by Benjamin Franklin. He said that people who are successful in life have 1 hour a day or 5 hours a week to learn something new. It's important to actually get that time to do that. Also, the development of soft skills is very interesting and very important. The company strategies need to cover hard and soft skills. They need to learn on their hard skills and the soft skills too, to be able to maybe have a longer useful life for workers. For example, I'm going to talk about the evolution of this balance between hard skills, soft skills, and technological knowledge. In the last 40 years, for example, for emotional intelligence and hard skills, soft skills, that Michel Serres said the following. He's a French philosopher, and he said, new technologies have forced us to be intelligent. Technology is revolutionizing our work, and it is forcing us to develop new competencies. And this is going to be the defining point in the workforce. We need to create the perfect complementarity between artificial intelligence and human beings. We need hybrid profiles. We need to have both elements into account, or take both elements into account. We need to invest in the diagnostics of soft skills. They are a set of capacities of relating to the others, how we think, how we feel, what we do, and the ability of having a diagnostic for these skills and be able to adjust it is key. And this is right now a comparative or edge. We have this attribute index. If you would like to give us your contact data, this is how we measure these 78 soft skills through axiology. We measure our cognitive structure, a way of making decisions, and our way of thinking. Nowadays, our skills aren't necessarily technical. We need to talk about cognitive flexibility, empathy, cognitive skills. Resilience is a very important ability or skill, and it is the main issue we are tackling during this session. So it is important to see what our workers have done in their work life, and they also need to know. They need to have a self-knowledge to be successful with the upskilling and reskilling. As Tamara was saying, we need to have a good diagnostic tool and see what the needs of the organizations are. What are the demands for these new posts? We also need to be able to evaluate the skills of our workers to see who might need upskilling, who might need reskilling. We need to be able to see what their skills are. Some may be hidden talent that the company might not know about. We need to create programs that are for personal capacity building, because we're all very different. And then we need to monitor the progress through a continuous evaluation. We can help. How do we work? We work with the WCO, and we help with the diagnostic of profiles for skills, customs skills, and also to develop those soft skills that are quite intangible. They're harder to get to know in this case. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. These are my contact data, and thank you to the WCO and C. Mohammed for having me in this session today.
Thank you so much, Kemi. That was really informative presentation. Really excellent information this morning. And I do want to comment that we have some terrific engagement in the chat and the Q&A. We have some questions that are already being answered. We have had some questions for Tamara surrounding her induction program and how employees are evaluated after 6 months, and also about evaluating participants or evaluating employees after their rotation, their 2-year rotation. Quickly, one other question, Tamara, for you, and that is, have there been any challenges, or how do you address the issue of technical experts that are required in the field, where you have those technical skills? How are you able to manage with that in the context of a 2-year rotation?
All right, so when we do rotation, Julie, we do not wholesale move everybody with like skill sets at the same time. We ensure, in keeping with the policy, that there is a great balance between the skill sets, technical skill sets that are required to undertake a certain function, and also to bring in people within that space who will need to benefit from those technical expertise. So we are very deliberate, I keep using that word, about how we rotate people. So you will never find that in any rotation that all staff are rotated. It is a subset of the staff, bearing in mind what happens at each job function and location, that we give attention to for rotation.
Thank you. That's excellent. Thank you for addressing that question. So I have a question now for Gabriela, and that was posed in the chat, and that was, how is a follow-up done for employees that are working at home? Is there a specific group created for it with specific profiles?
Bueno, mira, sí, básicamente,
Well, basically, we have 2 methods. The first one is related with the follow-up that every chief of section has with their staff, or with his or her staff. And then they meet with the whole team and they see whether they are achieving their goals. This is the first way of carrying out this follow-up. The second one is related to systems. Our systems allow us to see real time how many customs officials are connected and how many people are working, how many are in the different systems. Not all systems are interconnected, but it does allow us to see how many people in each of our DGs is working online. So it is possible for us to see what the performance is for each and every one of us, and globally to see how each section is working. And the thing is, we have managed to get to our goals, and we have been working against smuggling without rest, and we have had quite a few successes from home, working from home.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Question for Camille. You touched on the issue of resilience, which I think is a challenge and has come to the forefront in all organizations. And so how do we best address the issue of resilience with employees? Is it through training? Are there specific tools? In your experience, what are you seeing as the best way to address this?
Muchas gracias. Sí, efectivamente, la resiliencia es un
Thank you. Resilience is a set of skills, of soft skill set, really, how to have this ability and this skill to have this emotional control, to, well, be able to overcome stress, and, well, to measure resilience, which is kind of an abstract, intangible term. We need to be able to define it, how you see resilience in your organization, what you expect from your coworkers. To define this type of profile, it's important to be able to understand what the current situation is for the company or for the organization, the institution, what the life cycle is, what moment we are in specifically, what's happening. I was talking about creating, well, capacity building programs individually. Tamara was also saying it. We can do it in stages for groups. We can do it, well, for the most urgent ones and then go down the list. I think this is a way of measuring the intangible, trying to identify. We offer a solution that allows measurement and also allows the development of these skills through inner metrics. I talked about one of them, the attribute index, and this measures our soft skills according to how we make decisions. We all have a unique way of perceiving the world around us and of perceiving ourselves as people. And once we understand this and we see what the abilities are that create this resilience concept, well, this, how I can be more focused, this is a very important skill nowadays. So this is how we can detect what these skills are that I could develop easier. If I don't have a skill, I'm not necessarily going to be able to develop it in the short or medium term, but we have cognitive focuses that allow us to see what is a priority, what is going to be easier to develop. And this is why we developed a tool called Advanced Digital Coaching, which is a handbook to develop each and every one of these skills that can put together this resilience component. I'm sorry, I kind of went on there for a little bit, but I hope I was able to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. I just want to ask a question now to all three of you, and I'll ask this in a little different format for Camille, but we're hearing a lot about soft skilling and upskilling. And I think before the pandemic, we didn't hear so much about the soft skills, and now we hear a lot about it. How did your organizations in Jamaica and in Colombia assess your need to increase in this area? Just very briefly, you know, how important was this to your organization in establishing an approach to developing the soft skills? And for Camille, where have you seen in the scope of Intermetrics the percentage increase in demand for soft skills? I'm sure that in the last 18 months, you've seen a difference there. I'll just put that out to all of you.
So do you want me to go first, Julie?
Please, sure.
All right. So without even measuring, I recognize that our staff members were interested in being heard. They wanted to connect with the persons who led them. We recognized that there was an uptick in the need for example, counseling services. And we recognized that they knew the job, they were always hitting the target, but there was something that was missing. And you mentioned before the pandemic, we were able to do that through one of our programs called HR on the Move. So HR on the Move, and it's a program that we actually go out to the different locations, HR practitioners, and we stay at a location for a day. Sometimes in some regions, we're there for multiple days. And we took into consideration the concerns that were brought to us by the team members when we do those visits. It's not that they don't know their job, they know it. And we actually had a robust learning and development program long before COVID. It's one of the core pillars that the agency sits on. But what was not being given as much attention was the heart of the people. And so we saw that through that engagement program. And I mean, we went to see improving that HR on the Move program. We implemented or improved our employee assistance program. And we also implemented a peer network support program as well that helped them to own those skills. A lot of our online webinars also catered to strengthening the mental health and looking at, as I mentioned, HR empowerment that deals specifically with the supervisors about how they interact with their team members, the emotional skills, intelligence skills that were necessary to bring that connectivity with the team. And so what we did during the pandemic was really to improve on those offerings that we had, given that those things now became more needed in times of crisis.
Ok, si les parece, sigo yo. Bueno,
Well, if you like, I can continue. In Colombia, it's been a bit different. Perhaps the biggest challenge was to question ourselves how we can manage to get people working from home, because as I said, many of our staff are working from home. Sometimes they take turns, sometimes at the office, sometimes at home. Well, the big question was, how can we continue to work as a team? That is an enormous challenge, because for us in DiAN, teamwork is essential. So we're absolutely clear about this, that individually, we do not achieve the results that are needed as far as surveillance, follow-up, and getting the income that's expected of us to be able to control smuggling. We have to manage to put together all the different activities that are carried out by the different groups in the ports and the borders. And to do that from home has really been a very difficult task. So we've started evaluating with each of the section directors, with each of these groups, what needs were most evident in each of the different areas to be able to offer officials things individually and virtually. Though it seems like it's nonsense. You want to work in a team, but you have to talk to people individually. So it was trying to get all of them to feel that we are still present, we are still there. And this required an enormous effort from our organization. So we started creating a platform where monthly we could present 2 speakers that could help to strengthen, to show them virtually how to achieve that connectivity with their colleagues, with their family, with their collaborators. So we organized conferences, for example, based on the question of how to manage frustration, for example, how to obtain results from home. For us, well, it's quite frankly incredible what occurred, because we realized that many people, in spite of the fact that they're fulfilling their objectives, they didn't feel happy. Many officials didn't really even know if that was what Diane was what we needed from them. So we had to actually get to them, to each and every one of them, to tell them, yes, you're doing well, or no, we need to modify this or that. But you can modify working as a team. You can complement yourselves.
Thank you, Gabriela, for that. I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry, we're getting close into the next session. I just want to give 1 minute to Camille just to be able to respond to the question as well. Thank you.
Claro que sí, muchas gracias.
Yes, of course, thank you. Well, indeed, we've seen an increase of these terms, soft skills, everywhere. We who work on that every day, we realize that the demand already existed before the pandemic. The pandemic just strengthened the need for those skills. We're working in using computers, communicating with others from home. So how can you understand a situation that my colleagues are in? How can I manage all of this, manage my teams from a distance? So all of these situations started to really show themselves. And how can we measure behavior? How are they reacting, my collaborators, depending on their the way they normally behave? For example, the BISC profile, the way that we think, or green, yellow, or red, not everyone thinks the same way. Not everyone reacts the same way. So we have had the fortune, and I think that this is one of things that have happened in this pandemic. The demand has increased as regards measuring soft skills. And what we have seen is that there are certain changes. For example, certain skills, especially internal skills, if you like, to avoid psychosocial risks, for example. We have seen a series of elements, and we're currently carrying out a study in Latin America with colleagues from Brazil, a study on what is the consciousness, the awareness of your role. In other words, persons who are there on the borders, they have their professional roles, their family roles, and this has had a very big impact precisely in this situation that our staff find themselves in.
Thank you.
Also at higher levels as well. So anyway, we can continue to talk about this some other time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we could talk about this until next week. It's an extremely interesting subject. I would like to thank you all, my esteemed panelists who have provided wonderful presentations. My great pleasure to meet with you. And I'll turn it back over to Si Mohammed so we can start our next session. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for an excellent session. Thanks to all our estimated panelists. It was really insightful. I think we have to move now to session 2, and I will give the floor to my colleague, Cynthia. Please, Gael. Yeah.
Buenos días. Si Mohammed, should I continue?
Hello to everyone. Si Mohammed, should I continue?
Yes, please, Cynthia, you can continue, please, and you can invite your speakers, please.
Okay. Buenos días a toda la comunidad.
Well, good morning to everyone. My name is Cynthia Villarruel from the Peruvian Customs. I'm talking to you from Lima, Peru. For me, it's a pleasure to be able to moderate this session entitled Creating Resiliency Through the Digital Transformation of Human Resources. The pandemic created by COVID-19 has accelerated digital transformation. According to Mohammed Swaini, professor of the School of Management of the Northwestern University, there has been more innovation in the last 6 months than in the last 6 years. The pandemic has taught us many lessons. One of the main ones is that the crisis can lead organizations to adapt the most creative strategies and the most risky decisions. And of course, this also applies as regards the management of human resources. The success of transition to digitization, to a great extent, depends on having a holistic approach that reviews the whole value chain of the different jobs and skills, as well as the processes, in order to be able to understand the impact of technology on each of these components. In an effort to try and give skills to our staff and to offer an adequate transition to the new digitized environment. Now, in this session, we're going to offer participants a series of practical strategies to try and boost with success the digital transformation of human resources. Today, we are going to be accompanied by 3 wonderful speakers who I would ask to turn their cameras on, though I see that all 3 have already turned them on. First of all, we will have Mr. Alfonso Rojas, President of the regional group of the private sector of our region, followed by Ms. Maria Luisa Suarez, who is head of General Administration and Finances and Human Resources of Uruguay Customs Administration. And finally, Mr. Francesco Carabolante, principal at Io Tissimo LLC. Each of them will have 10 minutes available for the presentation, which will be followed by a question and answer session. I'd like to remind all participants of this conference that you can send your questions in through the chat. Hello, Alfonso, please, you have the floor.
Dr. Alfonso is muted.
Ahí la ven la presentación, sí.
Sí se ve, Alfonso. Sí.
Can you see my presentation? Yes? Well, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the WCO for having invited me to this conference. First of all, I have to say that they've elected a wonderful theme, and I want to congratulate you for all these different roundtables that we've organized yesterday and today. Also, is America and Caribbean, which is the vice presidency of the WCO for the Latin American Caribbean region. I'd like to thank them for their leadership in the region and the excellent communication they have with the private sector. Also, SECO of the Swiss Confederation for having organized this meeting. And above all else, I'd like to start off speaking about resilience. Resilience is the capacity of adapting any live being vis-a-vis any agent, perturbing agent. What we saw last year, above all, was that the pandemic truly revealed some of the shortcomings that we had. When we initially started the year, I'm sure that everyone, both in the private and the public sectors, we all had our objectives, our budgets, our targets that were well defined, and all the action plan, everything collapsed because of the pandemic. And so we had to adapt. No one in 2020, last year, was prepared for any of this. No one could have imagined that we went through what we went. So no one had a plan worked out, or no one had any idea of what we were going to suffer. But in 2021, things changed. In 2021, we already have experience, a great deal of experience, at least to prepare plans for this year, because now we know what we're going through. And I'd like to point out one of the important issues that not only should we consider as a problem, but also as opportunities. For example, internet. I started to study internet, and it just so happens that 63.2% of the world population has access to internet. So nowadays we can't imagine living without internet at home, on our mobiles, not only in our offices. We realize that that is a great area of opportunity. And for the Latin American and Caribbean region, this figure, without counting North America, in North America, Internet World Stats, North America is only considered as Canada and United States, not Mexico. And they say, for example, that in North America, US and Canada, 89.9% of the population has access. But in Latin America and Caribbean, it's 72.8%. So right now, many of us could not imagine what life would be without the internet. So there we find a great area of opportunity. As regards information technology, there's a great progress in this field. Perhaps we would need to advance more quickly. As Cynthia mentioned, we've advanced in 6 months what we hadn't advanced in the previous 6 years. And we all lived through that, and we all have experiences to tell. And we all had to take important decisions and undertake important actions. Artificial intelligence is an essential issue that has developed enormously. Before we heard about it, we thought of artificial intelligence as something that perhaps one day we might decide to use it. But nowadays, we're already using it in many of the operations in the private sector. Also, the Internet of Things, it wasn't very clear to us, whereas nowadays, through intelligent houses, intelligent elevators, intelligent offices, or smart offices, and it's not just controlling whether your lights are on or off at home, or the sound system, or controlling different things through e-commerce. It can even remind me that it's time to feed the dog. So the questions of blockchains. We had already been speaking of blockchains for many years. The fact is, I've had to participate in many meetings where we're speaking of blockchains, and really blockchains nowadays has become something fundamental to be able to share databases in the different links of the supply chain. Blockchains, apart from being very agile, it also offers very much transparency. No one can move anything without it being registered. And the use of the data, of the information, is fundamental. Now, training, that was also an important area of opportunity to upskill ourselves. During the pandemic last year, we had training that was very easy access at very adequate costs. And we all managed to train ourselves. We listened in the previous presentation how important it was to be training yourselves, to know that you have to always be learning something. And I think that through the pandemic, this is something that we've really felt at home. And the question of home office or working at home, telework, is something fundamental. We had to prepare our houses, prepare our offices, and we needed to organize our work a lot better. Many of us have children at home. We had to get the adequate conditions set up. Some even set up walls or divided their house up in different areas in order to be able to work from home, because we have to be connected. Now, I also wanted to speak of customs. Customs were prepared to organize themselves at a distance. Customs, those that already have single windows, and that's many countries in the region, that single window allowed us to continue to work. The payments through electronic payment systems, digital documents. Many customs no longer use paper. So many were already ready to continue their work. And customs were already on the boat of new technologies. All of us that work with customs, we obviously had to be also on that same boat of new technologies. The customs were already paperless and almost peopleless. There are already very few documents that need to be presented physically, and those customs that still required physical presentation of documents, they found that that was the perfect time to go on to digital documents and to keep all of those files in electronic format. Then lesser participation of persons. Through technology, we thought there would be less participation of persons. The means of transport has to arrive with an electronic mechanism. You can use the automatic selection to see whether they have to be subject to a check or not. But there are other functions in the customs that also require a presence of persons. And I need to congratulate customs all over the world, because customs all over the world continued working. If any customs had to close, it was because of their health department's requirements. But most customs continued working, and in spite of everything that we were going through, in spite of having to have less persons present on the field, or in spite of having different working schedules, it was urgent for customs to continue playing the role, and that's what they did. In March 2020, through Cunha Micorilla and Mr. Ricardo Trevino in the private sector consultative group, automatically they organized meetings every week. Customs cannot stop. How can we include customs in the way that we operate, how we need to use technologies? And there was the question of essential products that no country in the region produced those essential products, or perhaps some, but not all of them. So the question of foreign trade for essential goods was absolutely fundamental. Now, human resources and the management of human resources, that changed. And we started using key performance indicators. And so companies started to use the question of schedules. The schedules continue to be very flexible. And that just shows how flexible human beings can be when we face a situation such as this one. So schedules, when the time comes to we were all maybe used to our time, our working time schedules, but now we have to work and we coincide at home with the children. And so sometimes it was a lot easier to work late at night because the kids were already in bed. So we had to change all that. The question of home offices, we already discussed this, but everyone need to have portable computing equipment. Many types of work in the public and private sector need to have used to have desktops in the office, and now you need a lot more mobility. So you can no longer be not connected. So portable equipment was essential. Also, for the people, often these changes have been, very difficult to go through. There are many books already that have been written on how difficult it is to adapt to change. But in this case, I think human resources have shown the enormous flexibility and capacity of adaptation that they have. When there's no other way, how we are capable to adapt and change our structures. And the truth is that it was relatively easy. Now, 1 year after having started with this pandemic situation, it just so happens that we've become experts in distance work, or we are experts in the use of information systems in our companies. The companies have had to invest. There's a very businessman, a very famous businessman that says that whoever does not invest 10% of their income in technologies, they'll become obsolete, 10% or more. So currently the private sector is investing a lot in technologies. And but technology isn't everything if you don't have the human capital. So in our daily work in customs, there's also field work. There's also field work, the field of the customs work, checking goods, sending goods to laboratories, individual data of the goods that have to be checked. So everything that cannot be done at a distance, well, customs were there. Customs were there to overcome these problems. And some were suffering the pandemic because perhaps they had someone in the family that was positive, or they had lost a loved one. Others, because they were positive, but they had to be in quarantine. So we did not have the same amount of human resources that we normally had. And in spite of that, with less staff, we managed to pull operations through. For the private sector, the question of customers is fundamental. And this sentence from Richard Branson that speaks of customers, that customers don't come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. I think that that also applies to the public sector. The customers of customs are the users of customs, as we've said on many occasions. It was even the theme of the last regional meeting of customs directors of the Latin American Caribbean region. All of us are customs. And I'd like to end by saying that those of you that hope to go back to the situation pre-pandemic, well, I hope that we don't go back, because I think that today we are stronger. We have much more experience. We have grown, and we have grown not only in adapting, but we've certainly also grown in our values, and we've managed to give a greater value to life differently than when we used to do before. So there are priorities today in our lives that I hope that we will continue to consider priorities in the future. This is all Cynthia. I hope not to have overshot my time. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Well, indeed, as we say in the Americas region, customs is everyone. That's a very good perspective from the private sector in our region. So I would now like to continue with Maria Lisa from Uruguay. Maria Lisa, a good day to you. Go ahead with your presentation, please.
¿Ya se puede ver?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
María Luisa, no te podemos escuchar.
Maria Luisa, I'm sorry, but we do not hear you. Hello? Can you hear me now? Yes, yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead. Thank you. Well, thank you. First of all, a good day to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this conference. And secondly, I would like to thank my team who daily help me out, and in facing the pandemic, they have really proved to be up to par. I'm going to make a brief introduction. I'm going to try to share with you the different instruments that we have used for the digital transformation of human resources and how we have positioned ourselves as customs vis-a-vis the pandemic. Now, in thinking on how to construct resilience through digital transformation of human resources, we need to think and situate ourselves in the starting point of that construction. We start off from the point that the digitalization process of human resources is a dynamic process that no doubt in our institutions was already underway one way or another. And this pandemic set before us a new challenge to check our resilience as organization. Now, the first consideration is what our reality was as regards our processes, and that we had to resolve all the lacking elements that we had in order to be able to face this new reality that was created by the pandemic. Certainly in most of our institutions, it just accelerated the digitization process. And then we took decisions that involved different operative areas and support areas. We asked all leaders to reconsider their tasks. So we changed our type of organization from completely presential to a hybrid system where virtuality has occupied a percentage that represents approximately 50% of the work carried out in our organization. Currently, the challenges faced by the leaders of our organization has been and continues to be currently to find a balance between being present or being virtual without reducing the efficacy of the effectiveness of our organization. Now, our organization, for more than 20 years, we've invested in technology, for example, the Lucia system, implementing different strategies focused on digitizing processes, HEX, USE, home banking, and applying quality policies and decided policies in human resources to strengthen our human capital. In this sense, and since human resources is the great motor in organizational resiliency, we acted proactively without stopping to fulfill our normal missions. Our task is easy. I think that now we're fully into it to boost the whole institution to rethink the organizational model, to develop human capital. That has always been one of our strategies. And nowadays, our organization is fostering the development of skills based on management with a view to preventing, controlling, and reducing permanently the risks that are inherent to the development of the different activities that we carry out. As I said at the beginning, I'm going to try and share with you the different instruments that we've used to improve our organization's resilience. What is necessary is to tell you what the different pillars are. As a first pillar, we need to use the potential that is offered to us by the different digital tools. In this sense, we have Zoom, remote desktops, GRRHH, which is the integrated human resources management system that we have. We changed paradigms and faced new challenges. And how did we do it? Offering information tools to all our staff for the development of the tasks or fulfillment of the tasks from home. We tried to make it compatible the need that staff members continue to carry out their functions from home. We asked ourselves a series of questions that strengthened the general vision of the staff member. Our staff member, what do we need to do for them not to find their performance affected? How can we protect from a health point of view our staff when they're carrying out their functions, giving them the instruments that are necessary for their own safety? We decided to boost health and safety measures, giving them a more active role in the follow-up and permanent assistance to all staff members in health issues. We also established a series of protocols, communiques, telephone hotline from our occupational team. And the last pillar was the use of current technologies with a view to strengthening the organizational units in order to support our staff members. Now, here, I would like to signal out the importance of the informatics help desk.
These pillars helped the customs team to strengthen their resilience, and they had several tools. I will try to present those that are linked to the human resource management. Incidents of being at work. They can signal that they are working remotely through their computer or through their cell phone, through an app. We also had this GRRHH, the software for human resource management. This allows us to have this way of following up on human resources from the first stage of recruitment and all the ulterior stages and the development of those people also, the performance development, plans for their career, etc. We implemented contingency plans, putting together these essential services, and we created our operative working hours to cover these. We established which services needed these colleagues to be present and which ones could be done remotely. We also had our clients and our users at the forefront through a previous agenda that we prepared for this. We also created quick implementation solutions to give continuity to our service. And this is why we had to change the profiles of our officials to be able to face those new questions or problems that might arise. One example would be that profile that was going to give physical support in the workplace. Well, that had to change, centering around remote assistance. This is how we gave training to be able to face and to take care of those problems. This is why I was saying that this IT help desk was the most important part almost after this. We also strengthened communication with internal officials and external users, having an access through the website, a very quick access through the website. And they could also communicate in real time the measures to avoid generating stress. We also decided to have a flexible working time, and this helped with organizational resilience. Obviously, we need to take into account that this tool requires a continuous management in order to make it work. I have tried to share our main tools that we use in our institution. Now I would like to present some thoughts. Seeing how we work and how this goes. These different processes have helped with empowerment. This was aligned with different ways of empowering, putting this official at the center and empowering them for a digital transformation. And this implies a more empowerment, more holistic work, and also IT. IT really helps, but it doesn't do everything. So human resources at the center of the organization from a different perspective. The institution had to see how to planify, plan, coordinate, and be an active partner to each home to allow for performance to be upkept. Who didn't have to change their home organization to be able to take part in online meetings? This was another thing that officials had to think about to be able to create this work-life balance. Didn't we all have to explain to our family members that it was time to work now and not time to play? And this gave the opportunity to value this IT tool. An example for the family organization was very useful. It was very useful to know how that family was built to give these working time flexibility. This is why GRRHH, that IT tool, was created. We also had these databases or these fiches for our colleagues that would allow them to be able to work around uncertainty and be able to make decisions for the flexibility that was needed for working hours, special permits, and maybe going on a special leave. It was very clear that we all had to think outside of the box to look for innovative and creative solutions, even though we're used to follow procedure without questioning it. Oliver Rodney said the following on the implementation of a model. Our customs administration in Uruguay had a modernization process with the elements that he mentioned, and this is what helped us to be positioned better facing this pandemic. This is why I state that this pandemic was a challenge. In order to continue with this organizational change and create this resilience, we need a transversal team to promote the change and including all interest groups, giving an importance to human capital as the fundamental motor for our customs administrations and also getting the commitment from our workers. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't go on for too long. Thank you, Maria Luisa. We are sure that this experience is very inspirational to the rest of the region.
Good morning, Francesco. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Let me share. Okay, please let me know if you can see my slides.
No yet.
Okay, 1 second. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, now we can see the presentation.
Perfect, thank you. Hello and welcome. Buenos dias. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience in technology and especially in its deployment. life is becoming very complicated as technology has entered every aspect of our entire value chain, processes and tools. As in everything we want to implement, we need to look at the fundamentals to make sense of complexity. During this brief talk, we will focus on strategies to drive HR digital transformation, why we need to be cautious adopters when it comes to new technologies, how we can develop an understanding of algorithms and the underlying decision-making processes, how bias enters into algorithms, what questions human resources professionals should ask to understand their potential pitfalls, and finally, how can we start planning the deployment of these technologies to ensure that they align with our strategic goals? Are computers accurate? If you're adding numbers, yes. Interpretation of complex data is quite different. But how did we get here? Companies need to reduce cost of operations. This concept comes from factory automation, where human labor was progressively replaced by machines, which could do a more accurate, faster, and more repeatable job. The key difference is that at the end of the assembly line, one could check the quality of the product, or if unable to do so, one would get feedback by customer complaints and thus establish a quality improvement cycle. Now, the logic that is embedded in these digital products is buried into the algorithms. Reality is that we underestimate the amount of information that our brains process when making a decision, and we overestimate the skills and intelligence of these programs. In conclusion, be careful. The algorithms do not contain common sense or understanding of what we are truly looking for. They'll search all possible ways to obtain the objectives, no matter if it is realistic or not, if it is ethical or not, if it may produce outcomes that are opposite to our own intentions. And here's a recent example. A program was sold to a company to assess the fit of a new employee to an organization, assess his, alignment with the company's objectives. As they were unsure about the accuracy of the program, the management decided to test it out, and they did so by applying it to some of their top employees. And practically none of them was found to be a good fit for the organization. So that gives you an idea where we are with this kind of technology. For a long time, Gartner has published the hype cycle for new technologies. This curve is based on the well-known dynamic of new technologies. First, the new idea gets hyped and it reaches what is called the peak of inflated expectations, after which there is the realization that current implementations are far from satisfying the promises. And this is called the trough of disillusionment. Slowly, engineering fixes the bugs, improves performance, and finally the product reaches the point where we see value in the product. This is the slope of enlightenment, which is followed by continuous improvement in technology until it reaches adoption. Artificial intelligence, in general, most of the applications are still in the hype part of the curve, as you can see if you scan some of the names here. And since most buyers have no way to quantify the benefits, they can easily be swayed and convinced of the products. And this is what we see for most artificial intelligence-based products for human resources, especially in recruitment. like parsing of resumes, merit reviews, etc., and talent management. What about bias in the decision-making processes? Bias can creep into the algorithms in several ways. AI systems learn to make decisions based on training data, which can include biased human decisions or reflect historical or social inequities. The last 10 years are full of examples of AI programs that were canceled. And this at companies like Google, Amazon, and so on, all the big ones. The task is extremely complex and costly to develop. And failures at this large organization can tell you, how difficult this is to obtain something reasonable. Algorithms are created by programmers from data that was given to them with objectives that also may not be properly scrutinized. Finally, if you were the programmer, wouldn't you be biased in creating an algorithm? You wouldn't want to put yourself on the wrong side of the outcomes of that algorithm. There is a growing debate surrounding artificial intelligence and ethics. The bottom line is there is a lot of money at stake in bias lawsuits. And every large and small software company is developing software, but the objective tends to be geared to preventing lawsuits, not to be accurate. Bear that in mind. Oftentimes, we select a solution without assessing its value, simply because we are trying to get a nasty problem off our back. Sometimes we simply do not have the information or the expertise to assess the value proposition. Can you truly measure performance, or are you simply dumping your responsibility into an algorithm? With artificial intelligence, it is quite different from physical products. First of all, only few programs that are defined as AI have the ability to receive accurate feedback. An example is Google advertisements. If the message doesn't sell, Google will know it because it registers less clicks on the web page. Therefore, they can keep improving the product based on such feedback, which is millions of people. But in the majority of cases, such statistical means of providing feedback are non-existent. And the companies that sell these products take advantage of it. The inability of customers to gauge their performance poses a very low bar to the quality of such products. Can you truly measure performance? You need to ask the right questions. What are the parameters that were included in the algorithms? What is being measured or maximized? The artificial intelligence utility function, what the algorithm maximizes, needs to be defined by the appropriate set of people that are relevant to the outcomes. Should software engineers or product managers be left to decide the ethics of your company? So if you don't assign the right panel of individuals, whoever is overseeing the project will act on your behalf. And you will not know on what basis they're making those decisions. Nothing we do ever comes out right the first time we do it. That is why we invented the quality systems. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. But even if you cannot gather large statistics like Google, you can implement some quality control. If you carefully think about it, quality control is always based on a feedback cycle, the PDCA cycle. This terminology was created back in the 80s, and now every consultant is using different acronyms, but the concepts are essentially the same. So I'm not going to create a new acronym just to look smarter. How can we improve our success in deploying software when objectives are difficult to measure? For example, hire the best candidate. How do you know? What are the characteristics? You may only learn the outcome after 1 or 2 years that you have the employee. Some of the tried and true methods developed for Six Sigma quality control can be adapted to our needs. You can start by formulating experiments to verify the accuracy of the tool, even with limited statistics. For example, feed the resume selection, if we're talking about analyzing resumes, feed the algorithm of resume selection with the resumes of your employees and check if the results are aligned with what you already know to be a good fit. Same for performance assessments and other HR activities. Find a way to test the algorithm on a set of data for which you already know the results. Make sure that such set of data is diverse and not the same that was used in creating the AI model. It's important to remember that technology is unstoppable. We just need to make sure we leverage it properly. Yet, let's not be blinded by the blinking lights of the machines. During the race to conquer space in the 60s, one of the challenges was to be able to take notes and write upside down in space. The US government spent $1 million to develop a pen that could write no matter if it was up or down. The Russians just used the pencil. If I had to summarize the key lessons I've learned while studying the development and deployment of artificial intelligence, I would say, first, the technology is still in its infancy. Look at the objectives of the algorithms and have them translated in an understandable language so that you understand exactly what the algorithms do. Second, have the objectives of the algorithms evaluated by the people who should be responsible for the values that are embedded in them. Are those the values of your organization? And third, verify, verify, verify. Don't trust the label. Find a way to check if the algorithm delivers what it promises, always. Thank you for listening, and I will be available for questions.
Thank you so much, Francesco. Definitely, we are living in a world of algorithms, and they should be constantly evaluated. Ahora pasamos a la ronda de preguntas y respuestas.
Let's go to the Q&A session now. We don't have that much time now, so I am going to ask a question to each of our excellent panelists. I will start with Alfonso. Alfonso, from your regional perspective, from a private sector looking at the customs administrations, you said that they were prepared when the pandemic began. As a consequence of the pandemic, how do you consider that the digital transformation advanced in the private sector, and what impact did it have on human resource management? Thank you, Cynthia. I consider that the direction of the WCO and towards the other customers was to give this importance to IT. Before the pandemic, we knew we had to give a speed to processes. And now I think that all customs administrations know that they need to give more agility to their processes, and even the trade facilitation agreements are going to go forward. It is going to be one of the pillars to work on in the future. With this new experience, we can still render the customs processes more agile, that this helps with the flow of goods, that makes this flow safer, more transparent. The processes also need to be more transparent. So this would help towards trade facilitation and towards technology, and this will help have better customs administrations. Thank you, Alfonso. I will give the floor to Maria Luisa now. The experience of the Uruguay Customs Administration is very interesting for the whole region. I would like to ask you how you empowered the customs official at the center of this digital transformation.
Bueno, muchas gracias por la pregunta. Bueno,
Thank you
sí,
for your question.
este,
I am very proud to be part of the Uruguay Customs Administration.
haciendo la pregunta, ¿qué hicimos nosotros para poner al funcionario en el centro de la
What did
transformación?
we do to put the customs official at the center of our transformation process? Well, the first thing we did was to see from a strategic viewpoint what organization was, and then we applied a policy of strengthening of capacity building through integral capacity building, giving a transversal, a horizontal capacity building. In the pandemic context, we had to rethink this process, and we still gave that horizontal capacity building, but we also strengthened our online courses. We developed tutorials, webinars, forums,
Y reuniones virtuales.
and virtual meetings. Those tools
al apoyo de la capacitación.
are there to give support to capacity building. I hope I was clear in my answer.
Muchas gracias, María Luisa.
Thank you, Maria Luisa.
Muchas gracias, María Luisa. Seguimos con Francesco.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Now, Francesco.
Can you give advice to customs administrations on how to start the digitalization of HR systems and to customs who are looking to hire new tools for human resource management?
Sure, thank you. First, one needs to analyze your work processes. Then one needs to identify the most time-consuming ones and where errors are most costly, and where there are consequences that create more liability. So we need to first focus on this analysis and then identify and segment the sources of errors and wasted time. So once we have done that analysis, we can start by implementing the digitization and automation in those areas by ensuring that data is maintained in a non-proprietary format. For example, a standard database, so that you have control of that data, so that you can easily audit it and establish where errors may be made. So you maintain control of your infrastructure. Once you have a reliable and searchable structure of for your data, you can evaluate all the offerings of different vendors while having your own data still available to check the accuracy of the vendor's claims. So our new programs that we want to introduce are really providing accurate outcomes. So that's probably the first part. And as I mentioned, validating is the most important things.
Thank you so much, Francesco. Muchas gracias a nuestros tres excelentes presentadores.
Thank you to all three of you for your presentation. We have reached the end of our session. Indeed, as the three of you have pointed out, the pandemic accelerated the digitalization. Customs must lever the lessons learned and adapt their organizational structure and leadership accordingly. I started this session with Professor Soni, and When you stretch a rubber band and then you release the pressure, it never goes back to its original form. That's what us customs have been experiencing. There's no turning back. COVID-19 was a stress test also on digitalization, and it has forever changed the way in which customs operate and work. Now, the challenge ahead is to keep innovating in a creative way, including, of course, the management of our greatest asset, which is our workers. Thank you. Si Mohammed, you have the floor to continue.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And really, I echo on what you said on our excellent panelists. Thank you all for your brilliant presentation. It's really insightful. Thanks a lot also for complying with time. And now coming to the last session, but not the least, where we have to look on how we can enhance employee value proposition. This concept, it's really close to my heart, and it's my pleasure and my honor to moderate this session. I would like to ask Gael, please, if you can bring or promote as a panelist our four speakers: Centro de Liderazgo Emergente, Peima Tayara, and also we have BR Rolando and MX Aga Juan de Dios. This is how they are registered as attendees. What is important with this crisis reminded us on the importance on shifting from what we call the human resource management to what we should call human experience management. And it's not only a changing of word, it should be a changing of mindset, a new paradigm that it should be now around our HR department. And I think here we are not only looking to giving salary, we are here to improving, enhancing the experience of our employee. It's my honor and my pleasure to have this estimated speakers coming from different perspectives to share with us their practical strategy, their practical experience on how we can improve employee value proposition. It's my pleasure to have Ms. Tayara Barsalo, Director General of National Customs Authority, Panama. It's my honor, Ms., to have you as a panelist. Also, Mr. Juan de Dios Vasquez Alvarez. It's a Dr. Juan de Dios Vasquez Alvarez. It's my honor to have you. You are the Central Administrator for Customs Attention and International Affairs Office in Mexico Customs. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I have also Mr. Rolando Filtran, and this is a favorite name for me. I like this. And you are Under Secretariat of Corporate Management in the Federal Revenue of Brazil. It's my pleasure, sir, to have you as a panelist. And the last but not the least, Professor Santiago Vasquez, who are now well known in all our HRM activity. It's my honor to have Mr. Santiago Vasquez, Director of Emerging Leadership Center at University Technological of Monterrey. Thank you very much, Professor, to be part of our panelists. As you can see, dear panelists, we have four of you presenting this topic, and that's what showed the importance of the topic. But I will kindly ask you to comply on the allocated time to make sure that we are covering all of these four presentations in this time. The floor is yours, Ms. Tayara Barsalo. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity por la Organización Mundial del Comercio. En esta oportunidad tenemos.
Thank you to the WCO for this opportunity. We're here to talk about Employee Value Proposition, EVP. So, what is this EVP? This is the way in which our employees perceive the value they receive for their work. It's a series of benefits offered by the workplace for the employees. It can be rather tangible, be it leave, paid leave, flexible work schedules, or training, but it also can be intangible. The environment in which you're working, institutional values, different opportunities for professional development offered to staff. We need to improve this EVP for public officials. This means that we have to really take into account what COVID-19 has brought around. This has displaced traditional perspectives and priorities of our employees and have been displaced by well-being in the workplace. So they want a greater proximity from their leaders and from the HR teams. The organizations must improve their value proposals for their professionals, for their staff, to retain talent and to bring new talent on board. So the organizations and HR professionals must move from human resource management to managing the human experience. How has the Panama Customs Authority done this with EVP for our staff? We have done this through a digital environment. We've made this digital environment our ally in ensuring the functionality of the institution and the well-being of our collaborators. We have also made certain processes more systematic and digitalized different customs procedures. We have also implemented telework during the state of emergency declared because of the pandemic. We have worked with the cooperation of different departments, such as this General Secretariat, the Legal Department, Human Resources, Technical Division, to develop their own digital processes in their procedures to improve user experience. Thanks to different regulations, we could have different documents being produced in digital format, only in digital format. Different divisions within our institution made sure that this digitalization was easier for our officials so that they could achieve their goals and expectations. For instance, the Secretary General Office allowed for different documents to be sent directly by email. Certificates, compliance certificates, special certificates, the requests and document applications. These were different documents that were required by the Public Prosecution Office, for instance, in some of their investigations, and were presented and produced only in digital format. These are only treated now by mail, email. This, in turn, turned everything more efficient, both upon reception and on the treatment of these applications. These measures that were put in place made that both the Panama Customs and other customs administrations, as we have been listening in the past days, is that we prioritized primary areas and dealt with people who were basically stuck because they couldn't return to their homes because of the state of emergency. We expedited the clearance of specific goods and allowed and enabled a special system for digital signatures to combat the impact of COVID-19. We also implemented an interactive tool of national tariff on imports, allowing our stakeholders to quickly verify the different variables applicable to more than 9,000 tariffs. Our proposal for human talent really has a direct impact on our teams and the development of the institutions. This benefits of the EVP has two different objectives. The tangible ones I already mentioned: paid leave, study leave, telework, etc. And when we're talking about those intangible benefits, we're talking about the ambience at work, how good you're getting along with your colleagues, different opportunities for professional development, constant capacity building, as well as the sense of belonging to the institution. These benefits are key, in our opinion, to ensure good working conditions. They also make the institution more attractive to new talent and retains the talent that it already has by keeping it motivated. They also increase the sense of belonging, that fidelity towards the institution. It also improves productivity and the perception to the outside world of the institution. Now, to keep a good EVP proposition are the following. Number one, to listen and to value the opinion and vision of public officials, to keep them updated on what the institution is doing. Human resources must analyze and define the different features of human talent for the institution so as to adapt the professional profiles when selecting new professionals. Also, they must adopt the strategies for human talent to the digital era. We must ensure that our institutional websites and social network handles reflect the culture of the organization. That is all on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this brilliant presentation and also for complying with time. Thank you so much. I will move now very quickly to Dr. Juan de Dios. Please, sir, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. Let me just put the share. Can you see the presentation now?
Not yet, sir.
Oh, let me see. No se puede ver la presentación. Sorry.
One second, please.
It's almost okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Technological problems, like always.
It's always like that.
That always happens.
Yeah.
There we go.
Excellent. It's coming
There
now.
we go. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Muchas gracias. Disculpen la cuestión.
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for this slight hiccup. Well, we're talking about data. Well, then here we go. Dear colleagues, dear friends, thank you very much. And thank you to the WCO and to the General Customs Administrations for giving us this forum, because you have brought together the different customs authorities of our region to address the challenges and perspectives to improve human resources management. This is one of the cornerstones of customs activities. In my presentation, I would like to share quite briefly some of the tasks undertaken by our institution to ensure the EVP within the General Customs Administration in Mexico. I will be sharing with you our experience, 5 perspectives. On the one hand, the tax service department, to which customs belongs, has a central administration on the human capital cycle. Here, we apply the onboarding practices, hiring processes, and assessment and capacity building of our officials. The central administration has a dedicated site so that everyone working within the SAT and NAGA can access all the information. They draft strategies integrating a holistic approach focused on human factor. I would like to highlight that the different initiatives and projects carried out to focus on the EVP are approved and certified by a specific ethics committee. It has been created and is integrated within the institution by people belonging to the own set. They promote ethics and the integrity of public office. They prevent conflicts of interests and aim at promoting an institutional culture based on equality, a violence-free work environment, and non-discrimination. Our institution has also been certified in labor equality and non-discrimination. It's a Mexican standard. It promotes, fosters, and bolsters these attitudes within the workplace. We do know that the road ahead has a long way to go. However, there have been many advances in labor equality and non-discrimination. For instance, in the implementation of the general strategy of the Mexican government within AGA, we have included inclusive language and non-sexist language within our communications. This ensures that we don't communicate going against the institution's values and vision. We need to adopt and mainstream best practices on a daily basis, also on communication. We also have to promote in a more effective and efficient way how we communicate. We believe that these guidelines ensure the best communication possible to every public official, regardless of his or her gender. Within our institution, we have been carrying out different strategies which had an impact in the set tasks. We have a survey on organizational climate and culture, ECO in Spanish. It had different indicators, such as trust in the job that we do. We also have specific dedicated awareness-raising programs for our human capital through online capacity-building trainings. One of them, for instance, is focused on institutional integrity policy and other on building equality. We also have a training program on external trade. It also has a curriculum on transparency, very open, and it fosters synergies on the kind of tasks that these public officials must carry out so that they are strengthened in turn. Our human capital must always be engaged, especially when we want to meet our revenue collection objectives, crucial in these dark times. The state must be able to meet the needs of the Mexican population. Before the COVID-19, our institution wanted to have feedback on the different initiatives on human resources management. We highlighted the element of diversity in functions, the discovery of personal skills, as well as the setting of challenging goals as motivation. To us, attracting new talent is key, which is why we carry out regular calls, which are published in different offices and media throughout the Mexican territory. Before COVID-19 arrived, all the interviews and onboardings were carried out online, in presence, sorry. However, the pandemic forced us to go online. We had to carry out virtual interviews, check out digital CVs, and manage applications exclusively online. During the peak of the pandemic, we implemented different schemes to protect our workforce. We reduced on-site work and truly unfolded all the potential of our digital tools. We started with home office and opened new channels of communications for both officials and other central instances. We also implemented flexible schedules and reduced schedules so as to reduce mobility during peak hours. Face masks were mandatory all the time in our offices, and we created digital thermometers before entering the premises and had disinfectant gel dispensers throughout all of our offices and had a general central protocol to ensure the health of our officials. We put this at the forefront of our activities, and this has been reflected in greater productivity. We have been able to meet our goals without any delays, and we have ensured operational continuity without putting our staff at risk and fostering integration. We think that it's crucial that the customs administration is always at the forefront of promoting safety, security of those people who are, after all, public officials. So I want to thank them in this moment, to those people who work at crucial points, such as border points, to those people who are on the ground ensuring that the goods needed for our hospitals and health centers are there clearing these products. Thank you for your attention, and I do apologize once again for those technical glitches from the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really, really brilliant, and I'm sure that both of you and Ms. Tayara, you will be contacted by participants to learn more. And please, if you can have a look to the chat box and to the Q&A box. There is many question for both of you.
Sure, thank you.
Please, I have to remind all our participants that we cannot allow for participant to take the floor. Please send your questions to the chat box. Please, Mr. Juan Diaz, if you can leave the share screen to allow our second panelist to. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, I would like to invite now our third panelist, Mr. Rolando from Brazil Customs, to share with us the Brazil customs experience. Thank you. Oh, that's me. Sir, we can't hear you.
Sorry, so much buttons. Yeah. Can you see the presentation? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see your presentation. Can we hear you?
Gracias, señor presidente. Es un gran honor y un placer.
Thank you. It is a true pleasure and honor to be here with you and to talk about employee value proposal, EVP. Do forgive me because this is the first time that I speak in Spanish, so please bear with me, says the speaker, even though his Spanish is excellent. My name is Rolando. I'm not a football player, but I was a substitute coordinator of customs in Brazil and now work on corporate management. Within our remit, we have infrastructure, technology, and human resources. However, we don't call it human resources anymore. It's human management. Some history. We started as a human resources management within the logistics department. We moved towards a coordination general of people, human management, and have a skills-centered central. We're focused on people, so people-centered. We have a life quality program, training management, and capacity building programs, crucial to listen to our employees. We have three main goals: competence, performance, and capacities. Talking about our employees means getting to know your employees. Our system has an integrated profiling of our employees, professional skills, self-diagnostics, the will or desire to change from department, skills, their languages to speak, their managing skills, and if they want to become a manager, it's not good enough to have good management skills. They have to want to be in a managing position. We also focus on skills gaps, on special skills, on their history, professional history, and personal data. So it's not just a mere system. It is a whole. It is a whole process. For instance, capacity building must be aligned with our strategy. Skills development, human skills development, are crucial for the survival, preservation, and growth of the organization, and also to respond to different social demands. This is key in the pandemic, because after all, our employees knew what they had to do in their jobs. We have a special innovation department. We have some guidelines on automation of repetitive tasks, and if they do not require human presence, it can be automated. And we do have a specific structure on qualification and requalification.
Cambiamos de una organización donde había la presencia física.
We had an organization where there was a physical presence. Our employees asked us for guarantees. It was a hierarchical system, a top-down organization. What was most important were the tasks and not everything else. And the promotion of employees was also automatic. Now, we've changed into a structure that is centered on results. We stimulate initiatives. Employees want opportunities and flexibility. Communication is bidirectional. It's important to know and form part of the strategy. The strategy is not just a piece of paper hanging on the wall. No, it's important for employees to understand it and to form part of the strategy. Promotion is based on merits. We stimulate leadership and empowerment, and employees also want hybrid workplaces. So remote, presential, virtual. Now, to listen, we prepared a survey, national level in Brazil, on the pandemic, 1 year after the pandemic. And it was a very simple survey, 3 questions, 2 minutes maximum to give all the answers. And only 1 open question, how do you feel? And the results were very important. More than 8,000 replies, more than 4,000 open replies, or replies to the open questions. And the questions, for example, were if employees had any experience in management, and 26% said yes. If the infrastructure was okay, 74% said it was. If they could feel the remote leadership, and 74% said they did. If they could agree with the home office, and 93% said yes, whether they would like to return to remote, presential, or a hybrid mode. And finally, if they found themselves to be productive, the reply was that 86% felt that they had been productive after 1 year of pandemic. Management of human experiences. How can we change? How can we migrate? Initially, in the human resources area, it was as a resource, and so something that we had to control. We turned into people management based on development. Now, if we speak of the management of the human experience, I can speak of I can say 3 things: listen and trust. But it's not just a blind trust. It has to be a rational trust. It's a journey, it's not a destination. We have many problems. We have many failures, but we're on a journey. And so the management of persons as a strategy, the management of humans, people, groups as a strategy of the organization. So I wanted to share an image that I found in internet. It's in Portuguese, but in Spanish, it means be good and patient with people, because almost nobody's cool. So thank you very much, and all the very best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rolando, for this brilliant presentation. And also, it's not, thanks also for showing that it's not only changing the names, but behind the names, it's a changing of mindset, a new paradigm, and with practical measure. Thanks a lot. I will now give the floor to our Professor Santiago for his presentation, and I will please ask all the panelists to look to the chat box. It's really hot there, and also in the question and answer, we have many questions for you, please. Yeah, please, Professor Santiago, floor is yours, sir.
Muchísimas gracias. Muy buenos días a todos y a todas.
Thank you very much. A very good day to everyone. Thank you, Si Mohammed. It's a pleasure to be once again with all of you. I think that it's pertinent before I start to offer you a small presentation of myself in order to put a bit of context to the content I'm going to share with you. I'm the director of the Emergent Leadership Center at the Technological University of Monterrey. So I'm a practitioner, I'm a professional of human resources, or as Ronaldo was saying a few minutes ago, I'm a professional in management of people. I think that we lived a very important moment of humanity. That's very important. And I think that right now our function is more relevant than ever before. Human resources were born with administrative relations, labor relations, individual and collective labor relations. Things started to evolve, but I think that we are certainly at a time where that evolution has to take us to what we see here on the screen, the title of this session, the need to improve the value proposal for our collaborators, for people. Companies, organizations don't think, persons think. And I think that in this situation that is so different, so atypical, so demanding, this challenge that individuals and organizations have found themselves facing these past 15 months, these precisely give more value to the fact that we need to manage people in a different way. Our proposal, and based on my previous experiences, is to contribute for people to increase their working conditions. I think that if you think that feeling good at work costs money, imagine what it costs to feel bad at work. Now, I don't think anyone wants that. We all want well-being in our work, but we all know the consequences of not having well-being. Now, the leaders of the planet met in Davos in Switzerland, as they do every year in January 2020, and they were speaking of this new world. It's important. Before we offer solutions, we need to be aware of the different reality that we find ourselves in. This was a very volatile moment, very ambiguous moment, and COVID-19 arrived, a blackbird that accelerated even more that enormous change that we were having such difficulty to accept. Now, in this new normality, there's already those who say that we are in a new era, in a new age. The agricultural area gave way to the industrial area through a revolution. Right now, probably we're immersed in that transition between eras or ages, and we will need historical perspective to realize that the characteristics of a society at a given period and in the next period are changing radically. New skills are essential currently, flexibility, the capacity to adapt, but also tolerance and frustration, managing uncertainty, the capacity to feel things, to appreciate help, everything. All this forms part of these new challenges that our organizations face and that human resources departments facing, regardless of what culture they come from. Now, all of this organizations that have become in towers of Babel, multi-directional towers of Babel, well, each one is motivated by whatever they like the best, generating a certain degree of incomprehension between generations, since you're giving others what you would have liked to receive and receive a reply that you did not expect. So we're in an emergent reality. We need to realize that this is an emergency, this emerging here. And it's a reality that isn't asking us for permission for this hyper change to do away with practically everything that we were used to before. And Rafael Echeverría I think it was Juan de Dios who said that words are important. Language is not innocent. Rafael Echeverria, the father of coaching, already mentioned in the Emerging Enterprise in the year 2000, it was published, that it's necessary to realize that traditional companies are giving the baton of economic leadership to new emerging organizations. And my three previous speakers have already mentioned how important it is to generate environments of that offer confidence, new leaders, and to have leaders that are coaches as well. We've also seen in previous presentations and in session number 5 how we find ourselves before a new reality. Artificial intelligence has also arrived. Human resources have to reinvent themselves to be able to face these new challenges, taking decisions that are based on facts. That's why it's important, as we've just seen with Ronaldo in the case of Brazil, that he's been asking, he has data. Ronaldo and his team aren't just saying what they think that is happening or what they think that others think are happening. No, they know what they think. They know how they feel. And that is very important, to have people analytics, leadership analytics, using algorithms to be able to offer better service and improve what Simo Mohamed was saying, improve the experience of the employee. So that this way, and Tyra also said it, so that the talent will fall in love with their organization and will truly want to give the best of themselves for that organization. Well, in Google, they use artificial intelligence, and they are asked constantly, all their collaborators, what are the characteristics that the leader, the manager in Google have to have? Now, look how interesting this is. The leader of Google, according to his collaborators, has to be first and foremost a coach leader, the capacity of developing the potential of his teams. The third quality is create an inclusive environment. That is also very important. Diversity is a treasure. It's going to be hard for us perhaps to understand other ways of seeing things, the diversity that we see and the diversity that we don't see. But the truth is that no one is perfect. But a team can be perfect if you embrace and you boost diversity. And what do you have to do? What we have to worry, as is indicated on point 3, we have to be concerned for the success and the well-being of our collaborators. And somehow our proposal, the model for the development of person or management of human resources, has tried to increase the levels of happiness at work. We've developed in the company where I was the head of the staff. I was responsible in different countries, in Spain, in the Philippines, in the Dominican Republic, and in Mexico as well. And in each organization where I've had the chance to participate, the quality of the leadership and the generation of well-being and happiness have been very important elements that have a direct correlation with the results and the sustainability of the company. Well, as a professional of human resources, I read a book by Martin Salik, 2003. He said that true happiness is based on the identification and cultivation of your strengths and your daily use in love, in recreation, in education, but also in work. I think that we need to carry out a revolution to stop thinking that work is a curse and words are not innocent. Trabajo comes from tripaliare. Tripali is an instrument of torture. It's like a fork, three-headed fork that was used to torture slaves. So it's the contrary and of recreation. And so Adam and Eve, they ate the apple and they were sent out of paradise and they were forced to win their bread with the sweat of their foreheads. So in contributing to what Solomon said, work can be a source of happiness because it can contribute to our satisfaction, to find meaning in doing your work right, in offering something to the common good, basically to use our strengths in order to help and serve through our work to our organization, our customers, and basically to society as a whole. The fact is that work can be like the sea, a place where anxiety, stress, and fear reign, or a place where you can have fun and enjoy. But someone said that you learn the hard way. And no, yeah, but and also at home, we were taught that emotions have to be left aside, as if that were possible. No, contribute to happiness at work does not consist in not reaching your objectives, but rather the opposite. With the happy, productive work hypothesis, the most happy workers are those that are the most productive. And to finalize, I would like to try to explain, to share with you this model, our proposal after this presentation. How can we contribute to increase the levels of satisfaction at work and of happiness at work? Our model has three levels. First, there's a culture, corporate values. This is fundamental. We live in an economy of intangibles. 75% of the value of companies depends on intangible values, very much related to different areas of responsibility that are linked to people. Now, corporative values can be oriented towards the strong points that have been developed through positive psychology, the science that studies the optimal functioning of human behavior. What other things should we have as an objective, the professionals of human resources, other than to contribute to the optimal functioning of the behavior of the people that form part of our organizations? Well, basically, you need to generate a culture that is based on happiness at work, resilient culture, positive culture. That is absolutely fundamental. And then the 24th strength of Seligman Peterson can be an excellent reference to generate a dialogue on what type of culture we have, what culture we wish to have, and how we can transit from where we are to where we want to be. The second level are the functional goals. How can we readapt, for example, selection, bearing in mind the values that people have and how they fit in our vision of the culture that we wish to have? Also assessing the different levels of optimism and emotional intelligence in the recruitment processes, developing qualities that have to do with how you can manage stress, how you can learn to be more communicative, et cetera, not just technical skills, where coaching is a space, an area where you observe yourself and where you can grow, and where the leader also has a responsibility to generate awareness and responsibility in the members of his team through a model of leadership that is aimed at the flourishment of humans. And finally, in the second level, with working conditions that are just and fair and that offer satisfaction and a pride to belong to something. And finally, the third level has to be to measure that enormous challenge for human resources. When we're meeting with people from other areas in marketing, finances, operations, and they have the language of the indicators, they hope that they expect from us to also present our ideas, but prove those ideas with other indicators. So surveys, that was already mentioned in this panel, client satisfaction, internal, the work environment, on the results, what values, how it's been achieved, and also how do you feel, as we have seen. So I'll finish. And in the 20th century, the industrial area organizations thought that they had to choose based on results or on people. And I think that we can't choose between one and the other, but rather we need to base ourselves on the results through persons, generating commitment and contributing to their happiness. Tom Peters said that if you take care of people, people will take care of the service will take care of the client will take care of the benefits will take care of reinvestment will take care of reinvention, and reinvention will take care of the future. So in a nutshell, if we take care of people, we'll be taking care of the future. Also, one message of responsibility and support and a lot of energy. I think that nowadays our profession is more important than ever before. And as Dave Ulrich said, this is a great time to offer value, to help, to generate positiveness, confidence in the future through our work of human resource professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Santiago. It's really inspiring, and this is what takes me to my question and answer session. And I will build on your two last slide, and I will ask our three first panelists. Now, building on what's just mentioned by Professor Santiago, we need like to balance between result and taking care of staff. And if in a practical way, and as a leader, and if I can be like more specific in my question, as a leader, you have to deal with the pressure in revenue collection from the government, and also in taking care of your staff, in enhancing the EVP. Can you please share with us what you as a leader are doing with your team? Please, starting with Ms. Tayara.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. En efecto, las aduanas tienen
Yes,
una...
thank you very much. Well, yes, the customs have multiple responsibilities, facilitating trade, resources, controls, safety, security of the goods that come in and people that come in and leave our countries. And our officials have to be happy, especially in a situation of this one. So motivation, empowerment of the employees, as well as the benefits that employees can obtain when they carry out their work effectively. For example, in our National Customs Authority, when officials work and the result is that the company didn't pay the taxes that corresponded, well, there's the possibility that a certain percentage of those amounts that have been recovered, that they benefit the employees. So this is a sort of incentive so that our employees are much more attent to carrying out their work efficiently. And also, it's also to control and verify that all the processing of the goods is done, that it is done adequately within the classification and evaluation that are correct. And that is very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tayara. Please, Mr. Juan de Dios, if you can share with us your experience on that, please.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Pues digo, para simplemente agregar un poquito.
I just simply wanted to add a little bit to what Tanya said, who already explained everything to the full, I think. If I'm a leader, I am responsible for my personnel. I think that the most important thing right now is their personal safety. We've had 2 complicated years where we've had to redefine the way in which our social relationships take place and our working relationships take place. So now it's a balance between those 2 primordial functions of customs, which is the income and security, safety. In Mexico, it's very important with the new Administrator General. He's insisted a lot on security, but these 2 sides that define customs also have to take into consideration the safety of our staff. And for that, what's most important is to have good protocols.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, please, Mr. Rolando.
Oh, okay. It would take too much time to find the answer in Spanish. Well, it's a balance. In fact, we all work on an organization, so the results are important. But nothing happens, nothing works without the person. You might have the most perfect system, the artificial intelligence and database and cloud computing and everything, but without people, nothing works. Someone said, take care of your employees, they will take care of your customer. That's the point. So it's a balance. But in my opinion, the most important thing, if you are a leader, if you are a manager, you must like people. You must love them. You must be committed with solving their problems, not only your problems, but others' problems. So that's the point. You must like people. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. You are really passionate about what you are doing, and we can feel that it's coming from your heart. This is really what we are looking for. Now, coming back to Professor Santiago, you mentioned in your presentation the Google experience, and you pointed out the role of managers. In many cases, and I will be more specific in my questions, when we are trying to sell such kind of model to our customs administration, always we are hearing this kind of answers. Oh, this is only specific for private sector. We cannot, we are a public. How you can please answer to this, such kind of, based on your experience? And also this, your presentation remind me what we are trying to explore here in WCO, what we call it the psychological contract. How now you as from academia perspective, how this can be implemented in customs administration, which is, we know that it's a public administration.
Bueno, pues efectivamente, yo me he encontrado durante mucho tiempo.
Indeed, for quite some time, I've found that medium-sized companies would say, no, this is for big companies. The big companies say, no, if we were small companies, we could do it, but we're big. Private companies say, well, no, organizations have more regulation. So somehow, it's I think it's really great. You know, it's very interesting, but it's not for me. That's the kind of attitude. Well, look, I believe I would never say I'm going to have one model and I land with that model and I change everything. No, what I'm saying is that we can do it without even asking for permission. We, in our administrations, we can start taking decisions to use some small instruments or tools. I always say that the best is to try with a pilot and compare what happens when you're applying some positive interventions. I don't know, like applying a recognition or applying the fact that persons consider themselves to be important. Anyway, there's a whole array of possibilities. For me, we need to have the dignity or the possibility of doing things little by little, putting people at the center, using at each time the elements that are more possible, more viable. And I think that pilot experiences and being able to compare with those situations can be extremely useful. In the case of Google, well, obviously, we're perhaps at the extreme, the most vanguard organization now as regards leadership and how decisions are taken and based on artificial intelligence. But the truth is that all organizations can take into consideration the principles of positive psychology and the vision based on people. We, as human resources, we've spent decades controlling and not trusting people. And I think that it's time that we reinvent ourselves. And I also believe that it was Ronaldo who said it, to trust, but not just a blank check. You know, we need persons that deserve our confidence, our trust. This Blacher's theory. To delegate, first you need to have competence, and secondly, committed attitude. Otherwise, to give that person responsibilities would be irresponsible on my part. So we're in a new era. We're in a new era. And finally, if we manage to consolidate that term of the human age, because the agrarian age, subsistence, food, industrial, which was the next stage, and now people. Here's some information that are unacceptable. 30% of the population of most developed countries have some sort of pressure or anxiety. This is data that is proved through use of anxiolytics, for example, in the UK. To live nowadays, where physical and material well-being is better than ever, we need an anxiolytic to wake up and a sleeping pill to fall asleep. We need to change the course. We need to change the approach that we have towards people. And I think that when we speak of leadership, the first thing we need to do is to start speaking of self-leadership. How do we lead ourselves? And I'm sorry for being so long on this. I get carried away.
It's really interesting, and I will talk what you said in your last words, and I can say from all your presentation, there is a key word that it's coming in your presentation, which is trust. Please, you as a leader, what does mean for you trust, and how you are applying this concept according to your definition in your daily work? Yeah, please, Ms. Tyra.
La confianza es uno de los valores más importantes en una organización y definitivamente que
trust is one of the main values of any organization. Of course, we need to trust in our officials. We need to empower them. We need to empower them so that they can meet their obligations in a correct and diligent way within the institution. This goes in the benefit of the institution itself. So part of our tasks is to build that trust, to empower our officials so that they can meet the objectives which will be beneficial to the institution and society.
Thank you very much, madam. Yeah, please, Ms. Juan de Dios, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. Pues sí,
Thank you, Mohammed. Indeed, I like delegation. I like to delegate tasks with people within my team so that everyone does something different. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and one's strengths complement other weaknesses. I believe that any leader within an organization, regardless of the position, maybe it's a director, maybe it's just a manager, they have to be first and foremost facilitators. Facilitators with the people who work with him or her. That is how you get the people surrounding you being an addition to your work and not hindering
Thank you very much,
everyone's
sir.
work.
Yeah, please, Mr. Rolando.
Well, trust, that's a very important, a key thing. If you look to the future, not the far future, but the near future, we have to do much more with less budget, less people, less everything. So it will be impossible to do if you do not trust. It will be impossible to do if you does not trust on your team. So it's quite simple. You need to trust.
Yeah, this is really important. I like the way that you are answering, Mr. Rolando, because at the end of the day, it's we are human and we need to treat people as a human. And coming now back to my last question, and please, Professor Santiago, in 2 minutes, what's your key recommendation to all our participants from academia perspective on how we can now improve this EVP, how we can deal with this human?
Pues yo diría que las claves son...
I would say that the key takeaway is passion, perseverance. There's another key concept for you. We have it in the framework of positive psychology. We need to have a meaning to our tasks and purpose. I think that the constellation of these 3 elements could yield fantastic results. But in truth, the happiest man is he or she who makes those around him or her happy in return. So I think that we must get that feedback from mutual happiness. There's a lot of people out there who are in a very difficult and dire situation. And that creates some difficulties to think in a positive way, and in turn makes generating resilience more difficult. So we need, I mean, the darkest periods of history, the Second World War, for instance, were the prelude of a social reorganization. Who knows? May this time be a new boost to a new way of thinking and organizing work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Santiago, and thanks to all of you for. I know that this last session, and it's not easy to keep our participants with us. You make it you made it very passionate, and we can say that it's coming from heart. You are making me jealous to come to work with you. Sorry, I'm only joking. This is our final session, and I would like to thank all of you for all this insightful and this practical strategy and measure that you shared with us. And now I will give the floor to our capacity building director, Ms. Tail Kang, to give us his closing remark. Thank you to all of you. Please, Gail, you can promote Director Kang as a panelist.
All right, thank you, Si Mohammed, and thank you for allowing me in the panelist and distinguished Director Generals and representatives of partner organizations, panelists, moderators, participants, and dear colleagues. I want to express my warm thanks to all of you for your active participation and interest to the WCO HRM Regional Conference on the theme of building customs resilience through human capital. We have come to the end of this WCO's excellent initiative to improve the human resource management and human resource development within customs administrations. I'd like to thank very much the organizer of this event, Mr. C. Mohammed El Hail, for a successful conference and for the great job he is doing to promote this portfolio and to raise the member customs competence. I'd like to also give my gratitude to the Vice Chair of the WCO Americas and Caribbean region and to the SECO WCO Global Trade Facilitation Program for the financial support. In addition, I cannot miss my sincere thanks to all the moderators for the support and to the interpreters for their great efforts to facilitate the communication between all of us. We had up to 500 participants for this valuable conference, facilitated by 21 and widely recognized leaders in the field. I take this opportunity to thank them all for their insightful and relevant interventions. This webinar series allows us to explore proven practices, strategies, and interventions to build organizational resilience through human capital from different perspectives. These will definitely equip customs leaders and managers and employees to anticipate and adapt to the nature of crisis, act decisively, and respond and recover from actual or potential business disruptions. I know there are many valuable lessons and recommendations throughout this conference to be reviewed. But because of the time limitation, I cannot mention all those recommendations. So if I just mention the very representative one, we need to, the customs leaders and HRM professionals need to look to the future to be able to face the challenges of the new world for more resilience and effectiveness. For the other lessons and recommendations, I know I heard that these are enlisted in the conference website. So I want to all of you to share these the very valuable recommendations for our future around the improvement. I'm happy to announce that the WCO People Development Program, which is led by C. Mohammed in the WCO, is developing a state-of-the-art practical guide on HRM in crisis, dealing with all these recommendations to support members in this area. This guide will be available to all members and WCO partners in early September 2021. Taking advantage of this opportunity, if I'm allowed to advertise what we are doing in the WCO, the WCO is making efforts to support the Spanish-speaking countries. For example, Spanish language support in e-learning and translation into Spanish in important CBD documents are being progressed thanks to Customs Cooperation Fund of Korea. We will make more efforts to the support and assist the Spanish-speaking countries in the meeting and in the document and the e-learning programs in whatever. So we will do more to help and assist the member countries and the Spanish region. Finally, thanks to all of you, and looking forward to another WCO HRM event in the future. I wish America's region and Caribbean countries prosperity in the future, and I wish you and your families good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director. Looking forward to see you.